In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can create data within a data model where no data exists. What I mean by that is occasionally you will have reporting requirements where you need to see all of the values of a given attribute displayed in a report, whether or not there's actually data for all of those values. I created a really simple little data set just to showcase this. So this is grades. And just so that we can see this, I'm going to switch this to a different color so that they're a little easier to see. You'll see this data set here, very small set of data with 6 different grades, A, B, C, D, E, and F. The problem is, you'll see here, if I drop semester onto the columns, you'll notice for 2018, I only have these 3 values. For 2019, I have these 3. And then for 2020, I have all but this one value. So the problem comes in if you're going to build a report, and let's say that we drop semester onto a filter, you'll notice I'm not seeing all the grades, even though it's saying that I want to return all 6 grades. I'm only seeing the ones where I actually have data. And so the reality is, in a SQL-based database, you can't manufacture data if no data exists without writing it into the query itself. So because there is no data for these other values, I'm not seeing them in my result set. For those of you that have ever worked with SQL Server Analysis Services, you'll know that the MDX language does support this concept out of the box. And in fact, Pyramid fully embraces that type of MDX. You'll see that there's a button off of the query builder or the query tab that says show empties. That's designed specifically for MDX based languages. You'll see for a SQL based model, it doesn't do anything. Okay. So just be aware of that. If you are using an MDX based data model, you can just turn show empties on, and where there is no data, it will still show you all the attribute values. So if you're not using MDX, then how do you solve it? In this case, the way that you solve it is via a formula. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a formula. And essentially what we want to do is we want to mimic this behavior here of, I don't care which semester I'm filtering on, I always want all of them. And you'll see in this particular data set, I actually have every single one of these. If I remove semester altogether, you'll see I get all of the grades. So I basically want to use that semester to drive my logic. And to do that, I'm going to use an if statement. And first thing that I'm going to check for is, do we have a value at the what we'll call the all semester level? Meaning I want to have it first check to see, regardless of which semester I pick in my report, at the all level across all semesters, do I have a value? So I'm just going to say, as long as I have at least one data point for that attribute, then it should return it. But in this case, I also want to check to see if this is a missing value. And there's a function in PQL called if null that I can leverage to check this. So we're going to just drop another data point in, and we're just going to say, okay, if a particular grade doesn't have a value, then what we want to do is return a 0 in its place. And we're just going to say, if that null value does return a 0, then what's going to come out of this formula is a 0. So we're basically creating a record where no record existed in the data source. So we're going to create a record that will return a 0 value. Otherwise, we're just going to return whatever the actual value is. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. We'll just set our simple format string and let's save it. And we'll just call this grade score. All right. And then now if I come back over here and look at my formulas, I can see I've got this thing called grade score. So when I check this, you'll see when I'm not using semester, they return the exact same values. Both the student measure and the grade score return the same value. But watch what happens when I drop semester into a filter. You'll notice for grade score, I'm getting all 6 grades because that B, D, and E are getting filled with a 0. So even though no data exists in the original source, we are manufacturing those records using this formula. And so what I can do then, obviously when I'm building my report, is I just, instead of using the original measure, I now use this created measure in its place. Obviously, naming becomes important and you want to name it something that makes sense, but hopefully the concept is pretty simple. We're just testing across the measure that we're wanting to filter on. We're going to say, I want to check to see if there's data across the sum of all of those values. If there is, then I specifically want to find those ones where we're missing data and return a 0 for those values. Otherwise, we're going to use the actual value. So hopefully that makes sense. You can figure out how to do that with your data set. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me and or support for additional information. Thank you.